ESPN Radio. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. A lot of stories around college basketball the last couple of days, Mike, and many of them not so pretty. Between the business with the Pac-12 officiating, now this business with the videotape of the Rutgers basketball coach. But none of this should detract from the Final Four, which gets underway this weekend in Atlanta. You got three big perennial basketball powerhouses, and you have Cinderella that has made it all the way to the big dance. And here he is back with us on Mike and Mike on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, the coach at Wichita State, Greg Marshall, here on ESPN Radio. Congratulations, Coach.
Thanks, guys. How are you doing this morning?
Doing well, Coach. And let me start right there. Greeny said it. Cinderella back to the dance. What do you and your players think about the Cinderella term?
I was trying to sit here and find another term with a mythical character or some actual person that is doing something that's unexpected, but that's the last thing I would term our team Cinderella, because we're a tough, hard-working team that gets it done on the defensive end and rebounding. But offensively, there are times this year where we have not been very pretty. And Cinderella, as I recall, was very glorious and beautiful. And so I don't know. And my term that I've used a couple of times to describe this is Cinderella found one glass slipper. We've won 4 games. And when you get to beyond the Sweet 16, generally, you're no longer a Cinderella. Anyone, once they reach the Final Four, can win the whole thing.
And the expression that is more commonly applied to your program, and you're absolutely right, and the way you played here, has been play angry. What do the words play angry mean to you?
Well, I think when Xavier McDaniel and Antoine Carr visited with our team in January, and we were in the midst of a little skid during our season, they just talked about, you've got to come out and play angry, and that was Big Dog's term, actually. He gets credit for that, but we certainly used it. And what I think it means is you've got to come out and be the aggressor. And I want my teams to be aggressive, to play with a confidence and a swagger. That's when we're at our best, to be the one to beat someone to a 50-50 ball, or work harder on the glass and not physically hit someone first, but play with a little chip on your shoulder. And I think that's what we've been able to do.
And I think people appreciate that type of play, but there's also the reality of you lost your top 5 scorers from a year ago. So that's why I think it even has people scratching their head like, where are they coming up with the points? We understand the toughness in the defense, but you did lose a lot of scorers.
Well, my assistant coaches did a wonderful job of restocking our talent pool with the likes of Malcolm Armstead, who had transferred in and sat out last year and practiced every day against those top 5 scorers. He was a transfer from Oregon. We had Ron Baker, a redshirt freshman this year, who sat out and practiced with us every day last year. So that's my starting backcourt, 2 guys that practiced with us but couldn't play. And then the likes of Cleanthony Early, a junior college transfer who was first team all-conference and has a huge ceiling for our program. And our top-rated recruit that we've been able to secure in our tenure here, Fred Van Vliet, who keeps hitting big shots in this run to the Final Four.
Mike and the head coach of Wichita State, now headed to the Final Four to play Louisville. He's with us live on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Is Greg Marshall. And Coach, the second half of your game against Ohio State, you played about as well in the first half as anybody played in this tournament. Any half of basketball opened up a huge lead. It looked to me, as just a fan of the sport, as though your team was just holding on in that second half and maybe lost a little bit of your aggressiveness. From a coaching perspective, what did you see out there on the floor?
I think that could be safely said, Mike. You're right. I became a little conservative, working clock and going deep in possessions when you have a 20-point lead with 10 minutes to go. That's a natural thing to do. And we also, what people don't see is we had 2 of our best players go out of the game in those last 12 minutes because of injuries. Cleanthony Early sprained his ankle, actually had to get an X-ray. Paul Hall took a vicious elbow to the chin, but it was not a malicious elbow. It was a basketball play when he took a charge from Thomas. So those guys are in and out of the game, and also Carl had foul trouble. So we're mixing in different players and being a little too conservative. But what Ohio State was doing, to their credit, was driving it, getting second-chance opportunities, and getting fouled a lot. So we ESPN, and we were making our free throws. So all's well that ends well, but we probably were a little bit conservative in this last 10 minutes of the game.
So here you go in the Final Four to play the not only number one seed, but the top seed overall. You're according to the lines, like a 10.5-point underdog. What motivational thing do you reach for before this game with your players?
Well, we've actually played our best basketball this year when we were underdogs, and I don't pay attention to the line, obviously, and that's not something that we talk about, but this team knows the quality of basketball team that they're going to face in Louisville, the great talent, the great coaching, the great system. I mean, we've got to play really, really well. We understand that. This is the best basketball team in the country when they seeded the tournament. They were the number one seed of the 65 teams or 68 teams that made the field. So we know that we've got to play well, but we've been playing very well. We've got to handle their pressure. We've got to try to keep those two guards in front. They're really, really talented in using that flat ball screen at the top of the key and heading downhill towards the rim. But we defend pretty well. What we've got to do is keep them from getting easy ones with their transition, and we've got to try to exploit their pressure by trying to score.
Greg Marshall, Mike and Mike in the morning here, the coach of Wichita State. Coach, we certainly appreciate the time. We wish you the best of luck. And again, congratulations on taking this team to the Final Four. There's one other subject, and obviously this is as far from your mind as anything could possibly be, but it is what everyone in the world is talking about in the world of college basketball, and it is that videotape that came up yesterday on Outside the Lines involving the coach of Rutgers and Mike Rice. I wonder if you've seen the videotape and if you had any reaction.
I have not seen the videotape. As you can imagine, we've been pretty busy here. I've been doing interviews from the time I wake up until the time I sit down with my assistant coaches to prep for our practice and our videos. So it's unfortunate. I hate it for Mike. I hate it for Rutgers University and those players, but I have not seen it.
Coach, there are coaching techniques that are tough. Some cross the line, others don't. Where would you put your coaching philosophy and coaching ways on the toughness as far as how you get after the kids?
Well, we certainly coach our guys hard, and we tell them the truth, but we try not to cross the line, and we try not to disrespect them, especially in a public forum. But, you know, I played college basketball, and I played a lot of football growing up, and I certainly had my face mask yanked a few times and jerseys grabbed. And it's just a different era that we live in now with all of the technology and all of the social media, and it's. But in the end, you have to coach kids hard, but there has to be some type of line in terms of respect that goes both ways. And if you can do that and teach them about authority and discipline and things like that, ultimately, I think they respect you in the end.
Coach, we certainly appreciate your time and wish you luck. And back to that quickly, we won't call you Cinderella anymore because, as you said, sometimes you win ugly. Now you're Rocky. We're going to go with Rocky because that certainly was an ugly character.
I like it, yeah.
There you go.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Best of luck. That's Greg Marshall, the coach of Wichita State, who's slain a couple of pretty big dragons along the way. Knocked out Gonzaga, the number one seed in his bracket. Knocked out number 2 seed Ohio State, which is a team that I think more people had picked to go to the Final Four than Gonzaga, including both of us. And they beat them down. I mean, he was very open about that second half. They were trying to run the clock out. They were with 10 minutes left, and it almost backfired on them. Look, they're a very good team. They're playing the best team in the country. So people will expect the best team in the country to win. But I expected Gonzaga to beat them. I expected Ohio State to beat them. So could they beat Louisville? Of course they could.
That's what I want now. I want them to watch Rocky the night before the game. That's it.
I think that people watch more recent movies.
No, you want an ugly underdog. He said ugly. He used the term. Was there any more uglier underdog than Rocky? And
coming back and Sylvester Stallone ugly?
And his character was ugly. It was. He got the snot beat out of him all the time, yet he ended up being the winner.
No, I don't think I appreciate the way you said that. We'll be back in 3 minutes.